So my brother went to his high school reunion Saturday, and he's now home in bed with COVID. It's still here, folks. So if you went to the Palmdale High School reunion this weekend, you should probably get tested. Okay. City Clerk?
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Members Doris,
Here.
Molly,
Present.
Mann,
Present.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ,
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation tonight is with John Metters from Christian Life Assembly. Hi, John. How are you?
Let's stand and pray. Lord, we thank you that we can come before you today and talk with you about our city. Father, I'm so grateful for all those in our city who have a heart of compassion to serve one another through the city, through law enforcement, through churches, through private agencies, through nonprofits, Lord. Father, thank you for them. Bless them, Lord God. Lift up their hands when they serve you and serve others. Father, I thank you for our leadership that looks for opportunities to provide jobs and growth for our city. I pray that you would bless them. Father, I pray for unity in our city. Father, there are many different voices, and Father, where there are differences, let it be shared in a positive way that would lift up and challenge us to better one another. Lord, I pray that hearts would turn to you and that they would seek you through your Son, Jesus Christ. Bless this meeting. Guide the decisions that are made. In Jesus' name, amen.
Right hand over your heart and please join me for prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. ED1, COVID-19, and Deputy Mayor Dr. Trong.
Hi, good evening.
Can we do the Housing Authority roll call before we start this? We did the roll call for the City Council and the successor agency, but not the Housing Authority.
Oh, I see. Okay. So let's do the roll call for the Housing Authority.
Housing Authority Members Harvey, absent. Molly,
Present.
Mann,
Present.
Vice Chair Christ,
Present.
Chair Zetto, absent. We have a quorum.
I think we need a new chair. We'll work on that. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Trong.
Hi, good evening. We mentioned that COVID's still around. As you mentioned, your family member recently at a gathering and picked up COVID. It's still around. It is at a lower rate, but it's still very contagious. So overall, though, in LA County, our numbers are down. In our hospital, our numbers are down as well. Currently, we now have a new vaccine that is bivalent, which means it has two different strains of COVID, the original strain and the new strain, which is a mix of lineage B4 and B5 from the Omicron. So hopefully this is the last chance that we could really prevent a future outbreak in the fall. There's predictions that there may be one in November, December, when it's colder and we all gather together, for family gatherings, and so that puts us all at risk. But for now, I think the biggest recommendation is get your vaccine, and if you can, get the bivalent vaccine that's out there. Dr. Stock?
Yeah, I would just emphasize, and it just recently came out, the bivalent, but it's safe to get a flu shot in one arm and the COVID in the other arm at the same time. And then I'd probably take the next day off if you have the opportunity, or take some Tylenol at the minimum, so you may not feel so great the next day. But, if we're trying to avoid the endpoints that we all learned about during COVID, we don't want to end up in the hospital unless you're working there. You don't want to certainly end up being very sick or dying. You don't want to end up with long COVID. These are all the things you can do to reduce the chances of that happening. And the flu this year is expected to be a bad flu season. And flu can also kill people. Certainly can cause people to be hospitalized and end up very short of breath. So none of this stuff is fun. And the best way to prevent it, vaccine's one great way to do it, and then decide whether or not it's worth it to be in a crowd. And if you have to be in a crowd, whether to wear a mask. So those are the things we can do that make sense.
So does Costco have the bivalent?
It's trickling to various pharmacies, but it should be here or very, very near in a week or two. But it's very, very much available.
Does Kaiser have it?
We have it. We started it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So for the rest of the slides, just a quick update on monkeypox, because it is increasing a little bit, but then it's also decreasing. So there's a lot of information on this. And I have a few slides for polio in case you want to know about polio, because it's kind of emerging in New York. So here are the monkeypox numbers. We are now at 57,000 cases throughout the world. 103 countries are reporting it. It's now called Mpox, thinking because the word monkeypox needs to be changed because it identifies groups and it targets people unnecessarily. So California is calling it Mpox. The WHO is still waiting on the official name. So here are the countries. In the United States, we're at 21,893 cases. Spain is right behind us, and Brazil. But most of the cases now are in the United States or in Western Europe. Here, these are the numbers for the United States for Mpox. We're at 4,300 cases in California. We also are #1 again in terms of this infection. But it is trending down. If you can look here at the graph, it started out very, very worrisome, and as of late, it's now trending down. And credit to the community that's affected most by this, the LGBTQ community. They really went out and got their vaccines, protected themselves, protected each other, being very careful with this infection because it is targeting certain groups. So for California, we're at 4,322 cases. In LA, we're about 1,692. Affects mostly the young in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And as I mentioned, about 95% are the LGBTQ community group. Here, this is our LA County. Again, it's looking very favorable. Our number is at 1,836 in total, and it looks like it's trending down very nicely. So it's very good. These are the SPA areas, and we are at SPA 1, and we are at, as of today, we're less than 50 cases. In fact, we are at 22 cases reported by LA County website. The majority of the cases concentrated in the metro LA area. There's about 700 cases there, and it's the highest concentration. But we are actually the lowest out here in SPA 1 based on case counts. So there is treatment. If you do get the infection, we can prescribe treatment right away. And there's also vaccine that's available. And again, it is so far it's targeted to groups that are at the highest risk. And these are the highest eligible groups. And again, we have it here in the Valley also. That we are prescribing this vaccination. Antelope Valley Health Center is giving out the vaccines, and these other two centers are also giving out the vaccines. And they're readily available. So So that's all I have really for monkeypox. I've asked Giovanni, are you here? Oh, Giovanni. Come on. We've been working together offline just to, yeah, go ahead, update.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Trong. So as Dr. Trong has previously mentioned, we want to prevent a disaster from becoming a catastrophe. And I think that right now the numbers are in a really good place for us to do that because as the COVID-19 numbers have indicated, once you start responding to a crisis early, you have direct control in how it develops over time. And so there are three areas of recommendation that I have for you to consider this evening. And the first of which is making sure that the monkeypox vaccines, the vaccinations that are available to prevent someone from getting monkeypox, are distributed at health centers rather than just sexual health clinics. So when I had originally spoken to Dr. Trong a few weeks ago, he had told me that many of the monkeypox vaccines were administered at sexual health clinics. And one of the misnomers about monkeypox, or MPX, is that it is a sexually transmitted disease, which it is not. It is a disease that is communicated by touch and human contact, not just sexual touch or sexual contact. And so we want to make sure that people understand that this is not a sexually transmitted disease or infection, but rather just a communicable infection that anyone can receive, like no matter what their demographics are. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that they are not distributed at just sexual health clinics, but other health clinics, as Dr. Trong has mentioned. Secondly, I also think that it would be advisable for the city to put out information on its social media pages so people know what to look for in the symptoms of having MPX or monkeypox. There are several other cities that do this as well, and we really just want for people to remain vigilant and understanding of the signs that they should be looking for over time. And then I have one more item for you to consider, just one moment. And lastly, we just want to make sure that we are keeping track of the numbers. As it's been previously established, monkeypox or MPX is not deadly. However, there has been one fatality that has come as a result of MPX, and that was in California today. However, we want to communicate all of this general health information that while these are signs that you should be looking for, such as what Deputy Mayor Trong has indicated on the PowerPoint presentation, there are certain signs that you should be looking for, certain symptoms that you should be looking for, information about isolation periods, and how to make sure that you are preventative in getting monkeypox or MPX. So with that being said, those are just three strategies that I recommend using to make sure that the city is proactive in its response to MPX, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Gio. Any questions?
I do. I have a question on his comment. He said, and I want to make sure I heard him correctly, we know monkeypox is spread through touch, but he also said that it's not sexually transmitted. Are we saying that it's not now sexually transmitted? It's just strictly by touch? Because I know doctors are still arguing that. We know syphilis can be transmitted without sex also, but it's still considered a STD. So I want to make sure we're not being careful in how we label this, and then folks go out and say, oh, well, it's not sexually transmitted, because I believe that was the highest cases at the time was through sexual transmission. So I just want to make sure we're being careful with our words here.
So there's a selection of words, you're right. Syphilis, you're right, can be transmitted without sexual acquired, especially if you have secondary syphilis, which is a rash on your hand. You can actually spread it by touch, so absolutely. The criteria for sexually transmitted disease is very strict, and we reviewed it, I reviewed it also, and it looks like it's basically tied to the sexual act itself. Whereas if it's skin related, then it's said that it's not sexually transmitted. So there are groups now, especially groups from UCSF and other groups that are now saying maybe the CDC should start considering changing it to a sexually transmitted disease. But for now, we're kind of, right now the official guideline is that it's not sexually transmitted. Because again, if you have Mpox on your lips, you can transmit it by by breath and by coughing. We have TB that's transmitted sexually as well. So basically, it's the inoculation moment. If you have a wound and that wound has mpox or TB or syphilis, you can transmit it. So it may change. It may change in the near future. People are talking about it.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're saying both ways are still viable ways of getting it. I just didn't want it to make it seem like it's totally now not, and I know he didn't mean it that way, but
Right.
we tend to start trying to protect certain groups. I know why we're doing this, but what happened with HIV? I remember in the early 90s, they made it strictly a homosexual and disease, and then people found out when Magic got it, it's more than that. So, but at the same time, because it's so new, I want to make sure that we're saying all the viable means that you can get it and not just say, well, now it's not that way. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
You can get mpox from towels, right? Someone has the lesion, they're secreting the virus, they wipe it with their towels, and then you use their towels, you can get it. In fact, the kids who acquired mpox got it from being in the household. Even a dog picked up mpox from a patient just being in the house. So it's pretty contagious. So that's why it's really not strictly sexual. But yes, you're right. We don't want to label people and unnecessarily target them.
So why is the gay population being hit so hard?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Well, if it's just skin-to-skin transmission,
Right.
why is the gay population being hit so hard with this?
Based on the studies that the CDC conducted, it looks like people were getting it immediately after they attended large conventions, and also after that, the people that got the infection were involved in large group activities, and so that's how it started in the beginning. The cases in New York and Canada, but then there were cases where they weren't even involved in it at all. But initially, it was it's big group activities that was sexually that had that environment, in that environment. And so that's why the recommendation is, if you've been in a large group lately, you've been to a concert, and there's a lot of sexual activity, you're probably at higher risk. And we're not getting just one infection, we're getting multiple infections at the same time, so people are getting other things at the same time. Yeah.
I think I understand. Thank you.
Trying to choose my words.
Very good, doctor.
Well,
I guess we can proceed with polio, just that you probably will get questions about it because, what are we doing about polio and what it is. So basically, New York picked up the first cases in July, first case in July, and then they also found it in their stool screening. So it was very worrisome because basically it was a patient who did not have a polio vaccine, but picked it up from someone who had a polio vaccine, the attenuated, the oral version. There's two versions of polio vaccine. There's the oral version, which is used all over the world, which is not as effective, but it also can be, the virus in the vaccine is weakened. It's not a dead virus, and so it can evolve and change and infect other people, and this is what happened to that individual. And then when you look at stool studies around the counties surrounding that area, they were picking up polio viruses as well. So the concern is that polio is in the community and people are not getting symptoms. And so the panic is then, everyone, if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated because this is a high risk of paralysis if you get the poliomyelitis version.
Is our old version still good? I remember
Yes.
getting that shot back in the.
Yes, the IPV, which is the the injection, works really well. I give it on a regular basis to my patients who travel overseas, because in the Western Hemisphere, United States and South America, polio has been eradicated. But In the rest of the world, it is not. So when you travel overseas and you have not had your polio in the past 10 years, I usually give it just to protect the patient. And it's very benign. It doesn't hurt at all. There's no symptoms at all, practically. So basically, it is a disabling a virus, and it spreads from person to person, and it's basically oral fecal. You get the infection, the poliovirus goes into your intestine, you have diarrhea. That diarrhea is passed on if you're not very careful. Then you get near it, you drink water that's contaminated or eat food that's contaminated, then you can also pick up polio. And most people who get the infection really don't have any symptoms. And that's why when they picked up poliovirus particles in the stool in New York and other counties, it was very worrisome because they worry that it's already in the community. About 1 out of 4 people will have flu-like symptoms, sore throat, fever, tired, nausea, headache, etc. But a smaller group eventually may get more serious disease causing meningitis and paralysis. It occurs about 1 out of 200 people to 1 out of 2,000 people, depending on how serious the infection is. And as you can see from the pictures, basically paralysis of the large muscle groups. It's very contagious, person to person, as I mentioned, and contact with feces of the infected person is the highest form of getting it. And you actually put it in your mouth like toys or food or things like that. And we diagnose it by collecting stool samples. It's the highest, it's the best sample to collect and test for the virus. And there's no treatment, there's no cure. We only, physical therapy, pain reduction. There's really no treatment. There are 2 vaccines, as I mentioned. There's an oral vaccine here given throughout the world, and then there's the injectable vaccine. Both are effective. The injectable is more effective, and it's used in the United States. Overseas, this is the oral version, and they believe it is this oral version that infected the original case in New York in July. And that's all I have, if you have any further questions. Yeah, we haven't picked it up in California yet, so knock on wood. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Oh, are there any speaker cards?
No speaker cards.
Any questions?
I'll move ED 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Thank you. I want to move the joint public hearing on the Housing Authority to the end of the agenda. So let's skip to the consent calendar. Anything to be removed?
CC8. I'll move the consent calendar as currently comprised, pulling CC8.
I second that. Was there a speaker card?
On CC8.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, Josh.
Let's vote. Consent calendar is approved unanimously. CC8.
So the item before you today is the an ordinance change that we went over last week in detail as it relates to the Architectural Design Commission, the Youth Commission, and the Lancaster Homeless Commission, and the changes associated with that in the ordinance. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And Sean Cannon?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I rise today in support of Ordinance 1092, and I want to specifically talk about the implications that it has on the youth in our city that would like to make their voices heard. You know, the fact of the matter is that the Youth Commission has been long dormant because, in my view, it left people out. According to the website back then, it excluded kids from religious schools, charter schools, continuation schools, home schools, private schools, trade schools, art schools, and kids in dual enrollment. Years ago, when we asked for the input of the future of our city, simply voices went unheard. Now with this new direction, that we're taking, forming ad hoc committees, we have an opportunity to right that wrong. When we create the committee with a similar scope and focus of the Youth Commission, we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to reimagine outreach to Lancaster's youth. You know, I stand before you today as Deputy Mayor and a proud graduate of Desert Winds Continuation School. We don't know, and I am living proof of that, we don't know which of our schools teaches the next CAC member, the next entrepreneur, the next community leader, or the next city councilman. I encourage you to look beyond the bounds of the city's traditional high schools when searching for the future of our community. The future of our city rests not only in our hands or the hands of traditional students, but it belongs to every high schooler across the city. An ad hoc committee, however, is more than just an individual members who serve on it. It is the potential of what is possible when we bring perspectives together. Imagine bringing together the religious school student with the continuation school student, the art student with the scientist, the homeschooler with the prep schooler. I believe they will imagine a future for this valley in a way that you and I couldn't even dream of. But that promise of a bright and amazing Lancaster is only possible when we include all of our youth in outreach efforts. Thank you, and I do support this ordinance.
That was superb. Thank you. We're replacing it now with, help me out.
Yeah, currently we're not replacing the Youth Commission with a specific ad hoc committee. You have the authority to do that. But the Impact Commission or the Impact Program is what we've been using as our youth engagement, in which we we hire. I think there's how many did we say? 80. There's 80 youth that we participates in volunteer efforts, as well as training and engagement opportunities with the community. So there's 80 students that are getting paid currently to help out.
And we're not discriminating against any type of school or any type of educational process?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. What about the youth and government thing? Do we still have that?
That was the Youth Commission, and that is part of this has gone away as well. That was, if you remember, we did a mock council meeting, and there was a handful of students that participated. Again, I think, as was Sean said, there was an exclusive group of youth. Each year we have another 80 or so people come through that program. They do resume building, interview training. They also help out at different community events, and they're engaged in the process.
Okay, good. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve CC8.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
Let's vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, PH1, any speaker cards?
None.
Oh, the public hearing is now open. Do you want to waive the,
We have two of them. Are they the same?
No, these are different. One
Yeah.
is the amendment to the municipal code, and the second is consideration of our consolidated annual performance and evaluation report to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. They're separate.
it's a short agenda. Let's go ahead and have the presentation. So you thought you were going to get out of it, didn't you?
I'm back. Good evening, Mayor Paris and council members. This item before you is an amendment to the city alcohol ordinance. So we received city council direction to review and update the alcohol ordinance to create consistency and reconcile discrepancies in the Lancaster Municipal Code. As part of that effort, we surveyed and analyzed codes and policies, as well as reviewed current and past trends related to alcohol within the city. with respects to facility types and current application and approval process. As a result of the effort, the proposed zone text amendment would improve clarity, user-friendliness, and staff's ability to serve the public. It would also provide more flexibility and incentivize businesses that would streamline the current process while addressing any potential and concerns related to the sale of alcohol. So there are 3 major changes to our ordinance. The first change is the changes to definitions. So we removed reconciled and revised definitions to make it more user-friendly. The second is updated sections to remove duplicate efforts from the city and our alcoholic beverage control. So while these sections are removed, they're still part of the ABC process. And the last change is modifications to the review requirements. So we are removing the requirement for a conditional use permit, with the exception of bars, convenient markets with the sale of spirits, and liquor stores. So this change would streamline the process by allowing certain uses such as restaurants and grocery stores to be reviewed at staff level. So while there are changes to the ordinance, note that all projects that are requesting the sale of alcohol may still be deferred to Planning Commission or City Council for its consideration and decision if it's deemed necessary. So on August 15th, Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend approval to City Council, and we're in support of all the modifications. Lastly, this alcohol ordinance update is the beginning of an ongoing process to further refine the Lancaster Municipal Code. Staff will be reviewing and analyzing code sections that are outdated to ensure best practices and that we are providing a user-friendly and clear code while still maintaining the integrity and character of the city. In addition, with the increase of development, the code changes would also help us stay ahead of the development process. Staff recommends that City Council introduce ordinance number 1093. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, does it make it easier or harder for alcohol to come?
It makes it easier for your local business that wants, for a restaurant that wants to sell beer and wine. That would be a staff level review. We've seen actually good success for the Boulevard. Our downtown Lancaster specific plan allows it with staff review, and this current process takes between a few weeks for them to get approval, opposed to months of a public hearing. So it streamlines the process for alcohol, for beer and wine.
And we still, but you said it's a difference between restaurants and then between liquor stores and gas stations.
So there's a difference between liquor stores, bars, and convenient markets that have beer, wine, and spirits.
And we have a distance requirement with those, correct?
We do. We are currently removing them, but we will go ahead and look at it as if, we look at the schools around it, the existing neighborhoods. That's part of our analysis when they come in for the application.
So you're removing the distance, so that means it'll be on the staff person to approve it or not now.
Correct. But that would still be part of our analysis to see what type of sensitive uses are around that project.
Okay, my concern, and I'll say this again, when we was in COVID, and I believe all of us are in agreement. I grew up in Inglewood, South Central LA. Church, liquor store, church, liquor store, church, liquor store. And I don't want Lancaster looking like that. I plan on dying in this city. My father's buried in this city. I love this city. I just came from a country that is beautiful. No trash, Ken, you would have loved it. No graffiti. People don't even throw litter. So I want to make sure that while we're loosening things, we're still maintaining a standard. And I'm not saying our staff is not able to do that, but I'm a little nervous now that we're removing certain things that kept us from overloading our city with certain elements that starts to degrade our city. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
Okay.
our liquor stores would still require public review and a public hearing. So it'd still be before a planning
Yeah,
commission
but a lot
to
of those
review.
people don't come out, and it's up to us to look out for that's why they elect us. We're a republic. We're supposed to look out for our constituents. So I want to make sure that we're still making sure the city stays with this integrity of a very good, great city that's not overran with alcoholic beverages and alcoholic centers that's unneeded and unnecessary. So that's all. That's my concern now. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but that's my concern. So that's all I have to say.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 1093.
I thought you handled that very well.
Oh, thank you.
Second that.
Okay. Any questions? Let's vote.
You need to close the public hearing?
Oh, I got to close the public hearing before? I
Yes,
vote?
please do. We did not have any speaker cards,
Okay.
correct?
Scratch that vote. We'll do it again. Okay. Let's close the public hearing, and now let's vote. And it's 4-1.
With Councilmember Doris voting no.
PH2, we'll hear from George Harris. Oh, let's open the public hearing.
I'll be brief as this is relatively routine. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is a public hearing for the City Council to receive comments and file the 2021-2022 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation
George, I
Report.
can't hear you. You got to talk.
Is that better? Before you tonight is the public hearing for the council to receive comments and file the 2021-22 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, otherwise known as the CAPER, to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Federal regulations require that the city of Lancaster prepare an annual report called the CAPER. The 2021-22 CAPER is a federally mandated informational assessment report of all activities implemented with the Community Development Block Program and the HOME program. And in this particular year, we also received additional funds for coronavirus combatants to the tune of 1.7 in addition to what we would normally receive in our CDBG and our HOME programs. The report is attached to your staff report. It's about a 125-page document. If you have any questions, I do have staff here available. But the recommendation tonight is to conduct a public hearing and then authorize the city manager to execute any documents necessary to submit the CAPER to HUD, along with any comments received tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Let's close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve PH2, 1, and 2.
And is there a second?
I second that.
Let's vote. And it passes unanimously. Council Agenda Item 1, Monday Night Bits. And we'll hear from Efren Herrera. You know, the bar is high. The last
It's
speaker
very,
well.
I saw how she presented it, and I wish I would have went first, I'm not going to lie. But I got notes if you want to come do this one. I can offer it out there. Good evening, Mayor.
I told you, Junior, you were in for it. I told you.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, and council members. I'm here to present to you a little bit about Monday Night Bites and the Food Truck Collective. So going back to 2016, Food Truck Collective, an organization, approached the city to bring Monday Night Bites to our city, and it is a food truck event where they bring food trucks out to one of our parks, and the community can enjoy a variety of cuisines in our parks. So after much conversation with Food Truck Collective, the Parks Department and the city decided it was a good event to bring to the community. And so that happens and has been happening every Monday from 5 to 9 at Sergeant Steve Owen Memorial Park. And that starts in about April or May, depending on the weather, and it ends in October, November, depending on the weather again. So the way that the contract is outlined, the responsibilities of Food Truck Collective is they collect fees from each truck. They collect the application, the health department certification, the pictures of each truck, and the insurance from each truck. And the collection of these items ensures that the health and safety of our patrons, as well as the high aesthetic value of an event that we are putting our approval on or that we are a partner of. Food Truck Collective is also responsible for the promotion of the event, which we assist with, the load in and load out of the trucks, which we also assist with, as well as the organization of the trucks, which we also assist with. The city is currently responsible for the staffing of the facility, oversight of the event, the security at the event, as well as the maintenance of the facility before and after the trucks are on our our turf. So back when the event started in 2016, food trucks weren't as prominent as they are now. About 2018, they started to be a little bit more seen in the Antelope Valley area. The city and Food Truck Collective had a meeting. We decided it was in the best interest of not only the community, but also our local businesses to include local trucks into the event, not just bring those from outside that create a variety for the event, but also include our locals that could also create that variety as well. So currently, looking back at this entire year, every week has incorporated at least 60% of the trucks to be local, with a variety of cuisines across the board each week. Some of the concerns that were brought forth to you guys during some of the council meetings, the first one, which I jumped to the top of the priority list, was the receipts that weren't sent to a particular food vendor. I did get those sent over 2 days after that event, after Food Truck Collective and I had had a conversation. And then the major concern, or the main concern, was the process and trying to be transparent in that process. So the way that the food trucks would participate into this event is they would shoot an email over to Food Truck Collective. Food Truck Collective would then respond and send over the application as well as the requirements for those trucks to be able to participate. That goes to help everything that I mentioned earlier. Since that concern was brought forth and the need for transparency, we've now created a link on our website that allows for people to see the requirements that are necessary, as well as apply directly on our site. So anybody who submits the application can see the requirements, and then those completed submissions are sent to not only myself, but also Food Truck Collective, so that we can see those, and if there's no follow-through, I can double check with Food Truck Collective to ensure that the variety and our locals are still a part of the process. So as far as other events, I know that there were other events that were brought forth as well. So this weekend, we actually have AV Walls here at Antelope Valley Walls. Here at American Heroes Park, there are currently 11 food trucks, all locals who are going to be participating in that event. And we're also going to be expanding on our Parks Make Life Better, which took place this past July at Tierra Bonita with just a couple of food trucks and some different activities. We're going to be looking to expand that into different parks across the city, just to kind of bring the community out and enjoy the great facilities that we have to offer. But all of our processes and all of our applications are now available. We actually kind of use this as a segue to get into, we created an interest form. So any food vendor, not just trucks, who's interested in participating in any of our events can go on and click that, and we create a database. And that way, if any event is on the horizon, or hey, we just opened application process, we can send an email to those interested parties and let them know, hey, applications are open, please submit if you're still interested. So that is the process that is currently in place, and moving forward, it'll continue to be a streamlined process.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any questions?
How many? Go ahead. How many trucks usually participate in that?
Anywhere from 18 to 20. I remember the first time we did this, we brought out, I think, 10 or 12, and it was nowhere near enough. But it was a hot event, fresh on the scene, something different here in the city. From there, I think we grew to 15, and 15 kind of pushed the limit. So right now, we're kind of weighing between 18 and 20-ish, with 12 or 13 of those being local every single week.
And you said 60% usually they're local?
Roughly, yes, if not more.
Thank you.
Look at Sonia looking like a proud mentor.
First time, first time.
Has Mr. Mann been any help at all?
Mr. Mann is always a huge help, always.
Great answer.
Always.
I just, on the other side of it.
Really?
I wanted to know that.
Are we still considering the east side? Have we done it?
Absolutely,
Finish what
absolutely.
I'm asking. The second thing is, what are you doing to protect the brick and mortar
So
businesses?
right now, it's only a one-night event. So trying to promote everything that we can for brick and mortar here in the city is something that we want to do. But this event is something that it's a one-night event. I know that there were talks about potentially bringing in additional nights. That concerns me a little bit on my personal side of things, because I do want to make sure that our businesses are protected on that side as well.
Okay. There you go. Go ahead.
He answered it. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you wouldn't finish.
Yeah.
Now, I was just asking about the east side. Are we still considering?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, so in our meetings, so a couple things to answer the vice mayor. You know, I think you got to walk this balance beam. You know, it's a great event on Monday night. I think that you can get oversaturation, so there was a concern about that we brought up. And you don't want to lose you don't want to get to a point where it ends up not being a good event. And then we took a look at the east side, and we talked about the opportunities of things that were, as he already explained, at Terra Bonita. And, you know, I think that, again, we need to walk softly, because, again, we're walking that balance beam. But there's events in the future on the east side of Lancaster that's going to give us the opportunity to be able to have similar events.
Okay. And Ken, you're the master in this because you're a restaurant man. I did get a lot of great response because a lot of people watched, and when they heard that it was coming to the east side, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people got excited.
Yeah.
So I think that would be something we probably could just, check it out. And I understand about overdoing it.
Yeah,
I understand
you're
that.
going to see, again,
Yeah.
you got to, again, we're walking this balance beam. We have to ease into it, and you don't want to, you do something, and then all of a sudden now we have oversaturation, and the event doesn't. But I know that Sonia said that we've got enough things coming down the pipeline as far as the east side that we're going to be able to hopefully take care of all of Lancaster.
That's a perception.
Let's remember this is a meeting, and there are rules. That being said, what are we doing to actually inquire in the brick and mortar restaurants if this is having an effect?
It's something I can follow up on to see how it's affecting, especially those around the nearby area. I can definitely see how sales are. Monday was one of the nights that we chose because I know when we've inquired about like the downtown businesses, we work with them a lot. Mondays were typically the slower of the week. So that was one of the nights that we targeted, and that was the reason we targeted it. But I can inquire with those brick and mortars around the area and see how it's impacting them.
Okay. Well, I don't want to create a problem if it doesn't exist, but, it is something we just really hadn't considered. What is the impact? But I think you're right. Don't most of the restaurants, the smaller restaurants, close on Monday?
Yeah, most of them, they close on Mondays. Yeah,
So
especially with staffing, Mayor. Right. Staffing
Okay.
been a challenge. The other thing that came up is, in our investigation with brick and mortar, and I get it, the biggest issues are these unsanctioned events where, and we won't talk about where there's a couple of them happening. We'll have to look in more into that to see what we can do, but it's not within the jurisdiction of the city of Lancaster. And unfortunately, when people, like, I'm going to call them pop-ups, where all of a sudden 2 or 3 of these show up on a corner, street corner, and I think that's, one, there's no oversight. We don't have any direct control. And then what they're doing is siphoning off business from the brick and mortars. So I think that's going to be an area maybe where the chief can help us in the future, because that's going to really fall under code enforcement. So that's our biggest difficult.
How much of that is happening?
Well, if I can jump in, the council remembers we did pass a food trucks ordinance recently, and we are actively enforcing those rules as it relates to the issues we've been having in the past. So we are actively enforcing that weekends and weekdays to make sure that those vendors are complying with our rules
Yeah.
that you set recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
it-
not a problem? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, that we still have people who violate those rules, but we are actively enforcing those rules and doing education programs with those vendors and many other things.
Okay, good. Terrific, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do we have speaker cards?
Yes.
Huh? Kendall Ross? Good evening.
Hey, good evening. How you doing, Mayor and Council? I'm here just to speak on behalf of Monday Night Bites. I'm the one that provides the entertainment for half the kids, the families that come out that have nothing to do out here in the AV. And I let you know that Monday Night Bites.
Whoa. Nothing to,
No,
nothing to do.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, with
Nothing.
the pandemic, you know, coming off the pandemic and everything, there's a lot of things that in the community. There's families that are still stuck at home. They have no place to go because some things aren't open. And like we just said, I live right here on the boulevard. A lot of the stuff is closed on certain days when we want to go out to do things because today is like my Friday. For some people, Friday is their Friday. And today is my Friday, but some things are closed, so we can't do a lot of things. So when I say that, I'm just saying it from, I'm speaking on some people that I've talked to in the community because I'm
just overly sensitive.
Yeah, very, very, I'm sorry, yeah. But, you know, I'm trying to be that person in the community to help the community also because I work at the radio station, 100.9 Heat and Bob FM. We try to do things for the community by throwing, you know, shows and events out here in Lancaster. And the last 30 years that I've been out here, I've noticed, we used to have a lot of events going on, and then I know the pandemic hit, it stopped a lot of things. But right now, when I got invited to the Monday Night Bites, I saw families. I mean, I've seen smiles on people's faces that I haven't seen in a long time. And it's just because seeing kids out in the park playing soccer, playing football, you know, just sitting down in the park doing what they used to do as I was when I was a little kid. To see that, it kind of hit me in the heart to make me, you know, to push it harder because seeing all the vendor trucks come out and everything, there's some kids that they don't get the opportunity to see some of the vendors' truck, don't get to try some of the different foods and everything like that. Because here in the community, we have a lot of stuff to offer, but a lot of people don't get to see it all. And that bothers me a lot, so that's why I try to do what I can do. And most of you guys see me before doing music for people, different events, whether it be the sheriffs or whether it be for the city or so. I'm all around trying to do what I can do. I'm just one person, but when I see these 18 trucks come out there, they make a difference for 400 to 500 people every night, every Monday night, at least that I see. And to me, that just something I just have to let you guys know that Monday Night's Bite is a must. I think is a must that we have.
Thank you. Do we have an idea of how many people are attending?
I mean, on a slow night, a couple hundred, you know, busier nights, 500-600 people that we'll have. I've won on a number of occasions and had to park in the parking lot, the park and ride in the front because all the parking spots in the back are full and in front of the activity building are all full. So we get a good crowd, especially, you know, when we have good weather.
Terrific. So people are having a good time?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Thanks.
No, thank you.
Alfred Nunez?
Good evening, Mayor, Community and Council. I'm part of the 19 or 20 trucks that we park at Monday Bites.
So which truck is yours?
Mine is called the Bomb Fish Tacos. So that's one unique name for sure, and wanted to bring something different to the community, which is fish and shrimp tacos in Sonata style. Since there's so many regular tacos out there, I've said, you know what? Let's bring something different to the community. After working 13 years for Costco, I decided to leave such a great company to do my own business, family business. And one thing I really want, I'm too grateful, is to be a part of the Monday Bites. Having a food truck is not an easy thing, especially if you've only been in the business spot for me 2 years. And whatever sells we don't make throughout the week, Monday Bites has really helped us out, especially with my family and a lot of families that actually contribute to Monday Bites of the food trucks. It helps them out so well. And I would love to, you know, Monday Bites to continue, and especially if they can have more, you know, throughout the cities, not just Lancaster. I know this is Lancaster we're talking about, not in particular, but Palmdale, East Palmdale, West Palmdale. It'll be beautiful because we all pay licenses, just like brick and mortars, like you were speaking earlier. It really helps the community a lot, you know, and there's a lot of help having these programs available for us. And I really appreciate, you know, you guys actually giving us opportunities, having food trucks actually here in Alabama. Because I remember in 2008, I tried restaurant business. Food trucks weren't allowed except the ones that were high desert. Now, after COVID, I've noticed that more and more is available. That's why I jumped into it, because I've always love the food passion. And like I say, I really appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to actually be in business and have your own business as a food truck, not just brick and mortar. Because I did have that for 2 years. Lasted 2 years, but the economy went down in 08, 09, and I lost it. And here we are again.
It's not going anywhere. We like it. We just want to make certain there's not any problems down the road, and there doesn't appear to be.
Thank you, really appreciate it.
Great, thank you
That's all I
very
have to
much.
say. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Ricardo Barrera? So do you have a truck?
Yes.
Okay, you got to plug it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Easy's Taco House, so a lot of people know me. One of the first food trucks out here in the AV, starting the Monday Bites. So there was a lot of things going on. So we just, all of us are here, the rest of the group, just to be part of the community. That's what we want, to be part of the community, give out there to the community, do more events, like, we're talking about the east side and all that. All we want to be is a part of a big family of the food trucks. And that's what we want to do at the commissary, the Ponder commissary, just be a part of a family, to get along with all the food trucks. To, what is that word? Everybody to be part of the Monday Bites, but there's certain rules that we have to follow. Everybody knows that. So we can do different events for other food trucks that be part of that events too. We can probably thinking about it maybe. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But there's a lot of trailers, heavy trailers. That's why we can't put everybody in one event. It's too many trucks in the AV. Maybe we can join, what is that word? Put little events during the future, maybe, so all the other food trucks can be involved. Maybe. You say what I'm saying? Or no?
No, I like it. I just, it's a balancing act.
Just a little nervous.
I don't want to, I know. First time I spoke at one of these meetings, I froze. I couldn't talk. Long time.
Normally I don't freeze or get nervous. I'm usually out there,
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Right now, let's stay with Monday Bites, see where it goes. I think I like the idea of bringing the trucks in on the stuff we do on the boulevard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
We want to
potential.
involve more trucks, we do, everybody does, and everybody be part of it too. But there's so much we can do, a lot of us, so.
It's the whole food industry changed during COVID. It's going to be interesting to see where it lands.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
You're good. We're happy. We love you.
Okay, yeah, I know. I just get nervous today. I don't know why. But yeah.
I think I'll come out there Monday.
Hey,
I'll see you there.
try our food.
Great.
Everybody. All right.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. Let's receive and file. And, I forgot to ask you, has Ken made it better? Well, we assigned Ken to promote this thing. Have you seen him out there?
No.
They were asked, hang on. We needed to make sure that we had our house in order, and we made sure that, again, I think you heard some things tonight where now you can get an application online, and obviously it's going to help the city. And of course, there's other things I was concerned about, because I still, although I would like to get rid of that job too with the health department, is they've got some requirements, and of course, I started asking all sorts of crazy questions about compliance. So that's kind of my background. But I think right now where we're sitting at, I think we're good. So I think between Junior and Sonia, they've got a pretty good handle on things. Made those tweaks. I think we're okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Council reports. Is this where I do my Japan thing? Okay, good.
You
So,
want to do it after that?
Do you want to do the joint public hearing?
You want to do it after we give our reports.
okay, we'll do that. Can I report?
Sure. Just real quick, there's also a joint public hearing you guys kicked to the end of the meeting.
I can't hear you.
You kicked the joint public hearing to the end of the meeting. Did you want to take it up now or after council reports?
After.
Okay,
I want it to be the last thing we do, okay?
very good.
Because I got to leave. I mean, I'm not allowed to attend it, so just, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
so the sanitation district, we got notification that they are testing for the Mpox and the COVID through the sanitation that comes through on the Avenue D facility. So we're doing that. They did look at refinancing some bonds and that. That was denied, so we decided not to do that. The fair starts September 23rd. It goes September 23rd, 24th, and 25th for the concerts. It takes 2 days off, and then the motorsports starts. So they did that. And I have to give a shout out to Parks and Rec. I got a lot of people that called and said what a wonderful job everyone at Parks and Rec did. You have a guys named Quest, Wade, and Adrian that were helping, and they helped tremendously. So Junior, thank you for what you do over there. Wonderful job. And it was good to have the Palmdale reunion in Lancaster.
Yeah, that was good for the hotels. We like that idea.
Well, I shouldn't have laughed, I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you want to talk about,
Even if they did
49.
bring COVID, right?
Oh, the kickoff dinner?
yeah, because
I couldn't help it. It slipped out.
no, you go ahead. You got it. You started down that road.
The kickoff dinner, we received a appreciation award with the, it was held Friday. Raj, Ken, and myself attended, and we received the award for all the work and effort that we did with Kaiser at the fairgrounds and all the vaccinations. We did over 100,000 vaccinations at the Kaiser facility during that time. So we received an award with Kaiser, so it was really good. So.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to share, I participated in the California League of Cities, and obviously, when I came back, I was sharing with Marvin some of my insights. I can tell you, and I know we make comments just about every city council meeting about how great the staff is, but we probably could have done 3 or 4 of those seminars, or we could have led them, because here they are doing presentations on stuff. I go, we did that like 8 years ago. And it's like cities in California, not bragging, but they're so far behind. And so I was going there with the intent to glean, like, are we going to pick up on some ideas? And my position was we could have done 2 or 3 of the presentations that either cities were allowed to do or members of the California League were allowed to do. So it's a breath of fresh air to, when we sit here and take victory laps and talk about how great the staff is, kudos to Jason's team, whether it's every department. I was taken back. So I do want to let you know that a well-run city is Lancaster, that's for sure. So.
Don't give them a big head.
No.
But I do agree with you.
Yeah. Just, that's my takeaway.
Anyone else? Raj, you didn't do anything this week?
Actually, we went to a 9/11. Yeah, that's the only event I went to.
You went to the fair kickoff.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
You went to the 9/11.
9/11, we all
Right.
went. So it was really, nice to be part of it.
It is a good event. Our captain was there. He represented well. The LENCAP team took the wreath. We laid wreaths at the memorial this year, which was a little bit different. So that's it.
Good. Moving on. So, you know, when I was a little kid, we'd go camping or something. My parents would take pictures, and then we'd make the neighbors come over and watch the slides. Yeah, it was the most boring event you could imagine. But then we had to go to their house and watch their slides. Tonight, you get to watch my slides. So I totally understand it if you don't want to, but if you do want to, we had an interesting 10 days in Japan. But before I dive into it, I thought we should talk a little bit about why we went to Japan and why we're getting involved in hydrogen. The nation has decided, our nation has decided, that if we're going to successfully combat climate extinction, and I think all of us recognize that that's what we're facing now. Oh, I got a pointer too. Wow, thank you. It's going to be with hydrogen. In order to deal with this, and there's a question whether or not we can deal with it in a timely fashion before we have one crisis after the next, which is what we're having now. I mean, does anybody doubt it? I mean, it's just one crisis after the next. It's climate extinction. But anyway, the federal government, the state government, has decided that the only way we're going to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels is with hydrogen. But also recognizing we're going to continue with solar panels and we're going to continue with wind power and all the different other alternative energies. But to successfully combat this, it's going to be through the development of hydrogen facilities. And that's why the federal government is putting billions and billions of dollars into the development of the hydrogen fuel infrastructure. Lancaster is uniquely situated because we're well ahead of the game of everyone else. We actually know what hydrogen is. We actually know how you make hydrogen, and in fact, we're making it here. And we're making it here with some very innovative projects that are state-of-the-art. We have a thermal generation plant that uses the sun to focus the sun's energy on a container that then cracks the hydrogen out of water vapor. We have we're in the works on, that have been approved, is using biofuel to convert that to hydrogen. And we have the plasma torch facility that we hope will come to fruition, but it's $1 billion plant where they use plasma torches to heat paper waste to 4,000 degrees, which then cracks the hydrogen out of that. There is no other place in the world that has those types of facilities actually up and running or soon to be up and running. So we're uniquely situated to, I think, lead the world with it, actually. The nation of Japan has been looking into hydrogen as an alternate fuel source now for about 30 years. And the reason for that is they have no oil. They have no fossil fuels. It's been a persistent problem since before World War II, that they don't have any reserves at all. And so periodically they find themselves at the mercy of other nations that control the fossil fuels. So for the last 30 years, the nation, along with the corporations of Toshiba and Toyota and Hitachi and all the names we're familiar with, they've been doing research and development in the area of developing not only how to make hydrogen without a carbon footprint, but using that hydrogen in very unique and innovative ways. 2 years ago, we started negotiating with Japan to bring those companies to Lancaster in the hopes of bringing literally thousands of jobs with them. So the culmination of those discussions was we went to Japan And we went to see our sister city, Namie, which the Japanese government has decided will be their center of research and development of the hydrogen projects. And we hope to mirror that here in Lancaster and have an exchange of both scientists, engineers, and people learning how to work in hydrogen. It's not like methane gas, it's not like natural gas, because natural gas is a much bigger molecule. Hydrogen is the smallest molecule there is, and as a result, it's very difficult to work with. Depending on how the coating of the pipes are, it can degrade the metal in the pipes. It leaks very, very easily, so you have to have a whole new approach to how to transport it and how to store it. Some of that is well on its way to being commercially available. Some of it still requires a lot of work. So did I sum it up pretty well? It is our hope that we will lead the nation in that development of hydrogen. And what we're envisioning is the universities will be doing the initial research, but then the actual application of that, they would come here to do that. We are not going to know the answer to whether or not that will come to fruition for about 6 months to a year, but we're definitely in the running. So that's the background of why we went to Japan. And now you've got to watch my slideshow. And we did it with a PowerPoint. Namie is a city in Japan, a very small city. It was about 34,000, I think we have it down as 22, but it was actually 34. Did we ever decide that?
22, sir.
I think you're wrong. I think it was 34, but I'll go with your 22. When the Fukushima disaster occurred, and if you'll remember, there was an earthquake that caused a tsunami that literally wiped out everybody, killed thousands. It was, I think, 20,000 people died in that tsunami in that area of Japan. And then the very next morning, the nuclear power plant melted down. In fact, 2 of them melted down of the 6 that they had. We toured that plant. It was quite an experience, and we'll talk a little bit about what we learned there. And as we were there taking pictures over the facility, the Geiger counter, the alarms went off, and we had to leave. It's still very active, still very much emitting radiation in the area. I think all of us that went on that trip have come back changed forever in many respects because, well, I'll tell the story as we go. This is during the tsunami. It was 50 feet, 50 feet, 10 meters, isn't it, or more than? Yeah, it was huge. The initial warning came out that it was going to be 3 meters, and then they started updating it. And it was miles and miles and miles inundated with this water. And it hit the power plant, and that's what caused it to melt down. It's the worst nuclear disaster other than Chernobyl. I think Chernobyl was worse. So this is the mayor of Namie, Mayor Yoshida. We became friends. He's really an interesting guy. And so we're now sister cities with Namie. And the Japanese government is rebuilding Namie all around hydrogen. All of the power will be hydrogen. It's never been done before, and we're honored to be with them. But it was kind of a fun trip because we get a call that Mayor Garcetti's there in Tokyo, and he wanted us to meet with him there. And, you know, it's just out of the blue, so you jump in the car and you drive over there, and it was really kind of a photo op. But while we were there, we got to talk to his energy people about collaborating and working a closer relationship with the city of Los Angeles. What we found with BYD is you put the corporate offices downtown. That's where they want to be. You know, they don't really want to come to Lancaster. I don't know why, but they want to be in a big city. But the factories an hour and a half away, in Lancaster an hour away, depending on the traffic. That worked with BYD and is continuing to work, and we'll be announcing a new factory that will be coming in with that same model. And so if we collaborated more with Los Angeles, and I've known Eric since he was 20 years old, and so we have a good relationship. That's something we're going to be exploring to see if that can be a tighter, more coordinated effort. And so it was fortuitous that he was there. And LA, when they put on an event, the food was magnificent, wasn't it? I was shocked. I mean, they print money. We also, I was one of the keynote speakers at the World Smart Energy Conference, which was, there was a lot of people there. You have an estimate of how many were there?
I have never been in a convention center that big, including Las Vegas, and that crowded. I mean, it was elbow to elbow with people. It was impressive.
And it was all about alternative energy, but the hydrogen portion of it, that's where I spoke. And it was, you know, it's kind of interesting when you speak in a foreign country with a foreign language. You know, I kind of talk fast and I kind of just go off, and I really don't pay a lot of attention to notes and all. And so Jason and my son were going, slow down, slow down. And finally I realized the interpreter couldn't keep up, you know. And so I should have had one of those things musicians use, what, a metronome, you know, to tell me to stop, but it was a new experience for me.
Explain to the audience that are at home that you paid your own way with your son.
Oh yeah, Marvin wanted me to tell you that my son and I paid our own way. I paid his way, I paid my way. My travel expenses were borne strictly by me. So for those of you out there on social media that can't wait to trash me, you have to pick something else to trash me about. It can't be that. Isn't that right, Jason? Thank you. I do want to go back to that. I've spoke at a lot of energy conferences. I've spoke at a lot of lawyer conferences, and they did it a different way. Everybody lined up who wanted to talk to me afterwards. So I'm standing there for an hour, meeting people, you know, exchanging business cards with an interpreter. I was exhausted by the time it was over. And, you know, I'm old. My knees gave out. It was hard. But it was also really interesting. We met a lot of people. It was also interesting, too, in that I don't think there were 10 women in that room, were there? Which was, you know, it's a different experience that was the case. We've come a long ways in this country in many respects. Alexa wasn't too happy about that, were you? This is when we were in Namier, touring the various, what would you say, they have the beginnings of the research center, they have the beginnings of how the hydrogen is going to be disseminated through the city, how you use it with the fuel cells, and every 5 minutes we learned something new, didn't we? I even got to meet the guy who invented the Toyota fuel cell, which, you know, I was really kind of excited about. These were some really, really smart people. The upper right picture, that's the Namier mascot. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to have a mascot.
Can it be Ken?
But we're designing it now. Anybody has any thoughts about it, we'd be happy to hear it. But we're sort of focusing in on, we're going to call her Poppy, so you can imagine what she's going to look like. It's going to be really cool. It'll be at every event we do have. I don't know why we didn't think of it 30 years ago. Well, because Alexa wasn't born 30 years ago. And it was your idea, wasn't it?
That was actually our communications team, and Annabelle is in the back. She did the
Annabelle, this was your creation. Stand up. You're going to be famous. That's not standing up. I mean, think about it. It's sort of like Disney and Magic Mountain, but in the city. I think it's really cool. I'm excited about it. And this, I was inducted into the samurai clan that was in Namie 1,000 years ago. And they still trace their families back that far. It was a fascinating experience. It's totally different. I mean, we're only 300 years old, if that, you know? It was really cool to go back that far. And one of the painful things for the people of Namie and the Fukushima area is their cemeteries have the families for hundreds and hundreds of years of your ancestors that are all buried. You know, they have cremation there, and so they can put them in a much smaller area. All of that was wiped out. You know, the history of the family was wiped out. And it's very upsetting to the people, you know, because every year you would go to the cemetery and you would honor your ancestors, and they can't do that anymore. But anyway, that's me in the center. I look pretty good as a samurai, don't I? The thing weighed over 100 pounds. I was supposed to be in it for about an hour, but all of a sudden the program changed and they got me out of it. Was I faltering? Is that what? I know the agenda changed, but it was a lot of fun. There's the nuclear power plant that they're now trying to decommission. When you drive through Fukushima, I mean, it's unbelievable devastation. The stores, the houses, everything, no one's been in them for 11 years. 11 years. You look in the store windows, you know, and the clothes are falling off the hangers because of the weight of the clothes, and they're deteriorating. It's like a dystopian movie. And all of us recognized that, you know, one day everything was fine, and like that, everything was not fine anymore, and still isn't, and it's going to be 100 years before they totally decontaminate that area, if then. And now keep in mind, you had thousands of people that were stranded in trees and on top of buildings, and they could have been rescued. That nuclear power plant went, and all rescue efforts stopped. And they stopped for 2 months. The rescue efforts then became recovering the bodies because the radiation levels were so high, they had to evacuate everybody. And the guy who was taking us around and showing us it all, and he was saying, you know, every one of those people had a story. They just ceased to exist one day. And for us as a city, it became, you know, it was just so a slap in the face that this disaster preparedness, we're not very good at it. We're really not doing our job. You know, to me, the two biggest threats right now are probably earthquakes and an active shooter at our schools. And so we resolved that I don't care whose jurisdiction it is. I want to see it. I want to see what happens if there's an active shooter. And I want to see it in every school. I want to know that we know exactly what we're going to do if something like that happens. We're going to put a lot more money into disaster preparedness for an earthquake in the, what's that?
CERT.
CERT, yeah. It's going to be a #1 priority for us. And it's because of seeing what happens when you don't do that. Although there's a great story, they took us to a grammar school. There were 84 children. And the warning came out of a tsunami, but only 3 meters. Shouldn't have reached the school at all. And it was a teacher, but they call her a teacher, but she was essentially the principal. And she immediately started evacuations, even though it was not necessary with what they knew. And the evacuation started, and then the warnings came in, no, it's going to be higher, it's going to be higher, it's going to be higher. And she was moving those kids out, and there was a traffic jam from all the parents coming in and people trying to evacuate from the city. And so she just marched them up this mountain, all 84 of them. And all 84 of those kids lived. Nobody died. And it was snowing when it happened. It couldn't have been worse conditions, you know, as she took these kids out. Because she had a plan. You know, you will always sink to the level of your preparation. And she was prepared. And the school, they've kept it exactly as it was. None of those kids would have survived if she hadn't moved when she did. The parents that were rushing to pick up the kids, they all died, you know, in the traffic jam. It was a compelling day, wasn't it? I mean, I'll never be the same. And I met more government officials than I knew existed. These are all different government agencies within the Japanese government that are focusing efforts on hydrogen. One of the people we met with, she was the #2 person in what was essentially their commerce department. The Japanese government is very serious about coming to Lancaster and using us as the launching pad for these corporations. And I think that the benefits to the city are going to be enormous. Although the rest of the state is waking up and now we have competitors, so we're, you know, do what we do. We do it pretty well. I even got to meet with the governor of this, Governor Yamaguchi. They call them prefectures, but it's the equivalent of a state. And he had COVID, so he had to do it on Zoom. I was, you know, I was flattered. When I had COVID, I was in the hospital, so I was really happy that he went and had the meeting with us. This is Choshu. We actually have a deal with this company. They're going to power City Hall with hydrogen, and what they do is they're going to take that device there on the corner, put it in the back of the parking lot. We'll use our solar panels to make the hydrogen. We'll store it. We will use it to power City Hall with the fuel cells, and we'll power our vehicles, which are going to all be hydrogen powered. The biggest obstacle at the moment is just we don't have the infrastructure, meaning we don't have a gas station that'll sell hydrogen. So we're going to build one, and it'll be owned by the city, and we'll, you know, have somebody else operate it. But that's the only way we can get it quickly, is we have to build our own, and so we will. And that was my slideshow. Did it live up to the billing? Thank you. And we have a short movie, and we'll wake Marvin up, and you can watch the movie. It's only a minute. They wanted to show you the 8-minute movie, but I said no. Now, Mayor Yoshida is going to be coming to visit us in Lancaster, and we are going to put on an event when he gets here that everybody's going to love. Because, well, we can't be outdone, can we? It'll be terrific. Oh, and they even have hydrogen food trucks. We actually saw one, didn't we? Okay. Terrific. And so that concludes my report. Much better than your sanitation report, I might. He's speechless. It's 10 years. I finally have Marvin speechless. What a day. Okay, moving on. City manager.
Yeah, a couple things. We have a Raleigh Dentley Park Community Input Days happening September 22nd and 24th. So as you know, we've been investing in updating our parks, renewing our parks, and in fact, renewing all of our city with the roads and so many things. So this is the community's opportunity to get engaged on Raleigh Dentley Park, to look at the improvements that we plan on doing there and engage to identify what improvements are necessary, what can be added to the park, those types of things. So that'll be happening September 22nd, September 24th. We have AV Walls, or Antelope Valley Walls, happening this week. There's 16 new murals going to be painted, and we celebrate the new murals. We're having the Antelope Valley Walls Arts and Music Festival, and that's September 17th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at American Heroes Park. So come join us. It'll be fantastic. You heard a little bit about the food trucks being there. And of course, our construction, you will see a lot of our landscape restoration program. A lot of our landscape areas are getting remodeled and tore up. Again, with the idea that we are rebuilding our community, putting not only new amenities in there, but new services and landscaping to make our community much more beautiful. And of course, our summer pavement management program. We're going to do manhole adjustments from Avenue K to Avenue L and Division and I and J. One note is the Avenue J interchange went out to bid today.
J advertises.
No, what went out today? Oh, 2 weeks, sorry. Avenue J is going to be advertised 2 weeks for the construction of Avenue J, which will then put us at the first of the year that you will see the Avenue J interchange improvements happening. And that's great news. That's all I have.
Thank you. Oh, I have something else. On a more serious note, you know, Jane Reynolds Park, is it Jane Reynolds? Yeah, has the best skateboard park, I think, of anywhere, right? I mean, we certainly designed it with that as the goal. Most of the budget for the parks go to fixing vandalism. And so if any of you have kids out there that are using Jane Reynolds, I want to be very clear about this. I'm going to close that park if that vandalism doesn't stop. When we built it, I met with the kids, told them they had to police it themselves, they had to be responsible. It either stops or I'll fence it. And I don't think there's anybody in this city that doubts I will do that. I hope that doesn't come about. I'm very proud of that skateboard park. I think it's state of the art, and I wish I was less than 70 years old so I could learn how to ride a skateboard. But I can't, but it seems like a tremendous amount of fun. Make sure those kids understand this. They are this close to losing it. We are not going to spend that kind of money. Most of our budget for those parks is going into fixing the vandalism. That is deplorable. They have to start policing themselves, and they have to start using some peer pressure. So 30 days from now or so, when you drive by and see a fence around the park, you'll understand why I did it. Now, the fence won't be there forever, but it'll keep going up and down until it stops. And I don't know how else to deal with it. And if anybody has some suggestions, let me know. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but I don't want anybody being surprised by anything I do. Fair enough? And I'm assuming the council will support me on that? Good. Okay. Where am I at?
City clerk.
City clerk.
This is the time to address the City Council Agency Authority on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter may be referred to the city manager. Thank you.
Dave Owens.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Dave Owens. I'm here in my capacity as Chairman of the Board of the Antelope Valley Cemetery District, and I'd like to put the spotlight on Councilmember Mann, our liaison for many, many years. I'd like to take just a moment to honor him, if I may. A little bird told me that he had given his employer the heave-ho, and so I was very glad to hear about that, but I was also concerned that Mr. Mann, being a very accommodating guy, might be tempted out of retirement to work for Denny's back again, and I knew that that was not a good thing because he is a very accommodating guy. So I do have a couple of gifts for Mr. Mann that will hopefully help him keep his resolve to retire. So I'd like to show you, first of all, here's a T-shirt for him.
I sure hope it's not a casket.
We can arrange that. I mean, if that's what you want. So, but hey, when the time comes, just saying. So anyway, I got him a shirt, and if you'll notice, it says, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." So if anybody ever tries to lure him out of retirement, Mr. Mann, you can wear this shirt, and then everyone will know your position, that you have no desire to take on any more circuses and any more monkeys. We also got you a matching mug, which says the same thing. So please take it. If I may, I approach and give this to Mr. Mann. Thank you.
I'm glad it's not a casket. Thanks, Dave.
And we look forward to seeing you Veterans Day.
Yep.
Could we take a photo?
Sure. Can we take the shirt out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're in the middle of a monkeypox epic.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Barden. No, I don't want you being a Debbie Downer.
No, I actually have good news. First, I'd like to start by thanking the City of Lancaster for all of the collaboration that happened during the homeless count to get these numbers. And I'd like to say Los Angeles County saw a slight uptick in homelessness over the last 2 years. While it's too soon to know what this year's count results will mean long-term, the numbers suggest a flattening of the curve compared to previous years, which saw higher results. This year, we estimate 69,144 people are experiencing homelessness on any given night in LA County, which is only a 4.1% increase from 2020. We're down 3% in SPA 1 to 4,598 people. The pandemic had profound effects on homelessness. The 2022 homeless count sheds light on what is working while highlighting the problems that persist despite our coordinated efforts. Investments from our government partners made the rehousing system work better. In the early days of the pandemic, the federal, state, and local governments came together under a shared goal of bringing people inside our COVID vulnerable, unhoused neighbors. Specifically, Project Roomkey provided shelter to over 10,500 people, over 40% of whom were placed into permanent housing, a very high housing success rate for interim housing. At the same time, the need for social distancing forced us to decompress our shelter system, losing significant percentage of our bed capacity, and made the point-in-time count more challenging. COVID and the winter Omicron surge in particular made it harder to count unsheltered youth and families. The count shows that policy and investments matter. Bolstering the social safety net through economic aid and rental assistance to struggling families helped limit the increase in homelessness. Tenant protections and rental assistance throughout the county helped more people stay in their homes and not fall into homelessness. We are at a precarious moment. Many of the policies and investments that prevented COVID from driving more households into homelessness are ending. We need to learn from these policies and investments and make them ongoing. Significant investment in the rehousing system led to more people living in shelters, 30% of people experiencing homelessness at any given time, saving lives and making it easier to rehouse them. LA County's collective investments in shelters, including programs like A Bridge to Home, Tiny Homes, Project Homekey, and Project Roomkey, led to an overall 62% increase in the shelter beds from 2019 to 2022. However, our shelter system was still experiencing decompression back in February to ensure social distancing, limiting the number of people our system could bring inside.
Tell me about the count. Did the count take place when people were in temporary housing during COVID?
Yes, Project Roomkey was happening during the count. It was it was a point in time count in February.
So a more unscrupulous mayor would say, I reduced homelessness 70%, right? But that would be a lie, wouldn't it?
Right, we don't know what the numbers are going to be now that we're seeing these programs are ending. Like Project Roomkey has ended, but this was a point in time count in February when that was happening.
So why did they spend the money doing a count when they knew it would be grossly underestimated?
The point in time count is done usually every January. This year it was postponed due to the COVID spike, and it did not happen the previous year. So we don't have a 2021 count because of COVID.
Isn't that count how we get the funding to deal with the problem?
Yes. It's done at the same time every year.
You know, I smell a lawsuit. I mean, that's outrageous. They come up with numbers they know are inaccurate, know are grossly underestimated, and then base our funding on those numbers. Does somebody smell a rat other than me? I mean, how does that make sense?
I don't know, I would have to escalate
So,
that.
shouldn't there be at least some discussion about preserving the funding based on the previous numbers before COVID, rather than the numbers during COVID, which we know are understated?
The numbers with this count are taking into account the shelter systems that were in place at the time, Project Roomkey and Project Homekey.
Heather, explain that to me.
So it was part of the shelter count, so they knew that people that were in those hotel rooms at the time were experiencing homelessness. So those people were counted, and there was also, and I can come back with the specific numbers, but they did have a formula for things like the youth shelters being closed or decompressed, or the access centers not being available at the time for the counts.
But clearly it hasn't been reduced 70%. I mean,
We had a
you just have to drive through the city to see that.
We had a 3% decrease in Service Planning Area 1.
Well, who told me 70?
SPA includes a much larger population than just the city.
I'm sorry, what?
The SPA includes a much larger population than just the city.
Oh, it'd be the county area too, right? Oh, which still affects us, right?
Right.
So how much was the budget decreased?
I don't have that information.
When can you get it?
I'll have to follow up with my team, I'm not sure.
So did any of the spa areas have an increase in homelessness?
The overall count for the county did show an increase in homelessness, but it went down.
So is it reasonable to conclude that some other part of the county is going to get the money that should be going here? Is that, wait a minute, I don't want to put you in a difficult position. I forgot, you're no longer the deputy mayor here. You actually work for those people, don't you?
Yes, I do.
All right. I'll address the questions to somebody else.
I can get you in contact with somebody from our grants team. They handle the funding.
Why don't you just tell them, let's not go through all this, just give us the money. Could you do that?
I don't have that kind of power.
But you could convey the message.
Yes.
It'd save everybody a lot of time, and it's not as if we're wrong, right? Make sense?
And Heather, they don't count the hidden homeless here, correct? And the hidden homeless, the people that have broke into buildings, into sheds, into cars. They don't count those here.
So for Service Planning Area 1, we did a closed count, which was mostly trained outreach professionals that know exactly where to look for them and have been outreaching to those individuals. So if they were out and about on the day of the count, they would have been counted.
So they used to count the hidden homeless until SPA 1 was inundated with hidden homeless because of our weather. In Los Angeles, you can stay outside at night. In the Antelope Valley, on a January 20th date, not so much.
That's why our count is done during the daytime in Service Planning Area 1.
Okay.
I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, but you might want to tell them they've got a problem coming. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Oh, and I think you're doing a great job. Good. Okay. That's it for the speaker cards, unless anybody wants to jump up. Good.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I would just like to.
You already had it turned in. Okay.
I'll be very, very quick. As my position as chairman of the AV Cemetery Board, I would like to address the council at some future time. I know that at various times, members of the board have come here and basically asked the city council for money, but I want to basically come back and tell you that we don't need anything, that we're actually doing quite well. So hopefully that would be a bit of a refreshing change. So if at some point in the future, I have the opportunity to come, basically tell you about the changes that we've made, the very, very deep systemic changes that have happened, which have basically made the AV Cemetery District not just self-supporting, but thriving. So I'd like at some point, if it's all possible, maybe meet with Mr. Cottle or whoever to arrange that. But it's actually a very big success story, and I'd love to tell that story. So thank you.
But Dave, I mean, in order for a cemetery to make money, is thrive really the word we want to use?
Considering somebody who's dedicated the last 15 of my years of my life to make sure that it's successful, yes, I feel very proud of what's been done. And considering where it came from when it was looking where it was going to need to be shut down and everything.
No, I remember that.
You know, so I think that it's definitely a different world. I think that it's become much more of a showplace, definitely a success story of how when people just don't give up, when they don't quit, that, you know, great things happen. So I think that, you know, we definitely have a story to tell, and I think that we'd like to start here if it's all possible.
And Marvin, me, and Ken, we probably ought to go over there and shop, don't you think?
I will leave that totally up to you. We have lots of product, and that's, you know, since you're offering.
So if the three of us went over there, could
we get a group rate?
Yeah, can we get a group rate?
I think we arrange that, yeah. We'll take you around. We've got lots of acreage. And also just the city has been a part of that, helping us get our reclaimed water system over there. That was a big part. You guys were using that water. And by the way, the grass loves it, so thank you. But
what about the people under the grass?
they seem happy. They haven't said anything about it, so, So I do say that I'm head of one of the largest groups. I have 7,000 people under me, and delay, okay, but anyway, I really would like to have that opportunity, if at all possible, because I truly think it is something that was really a burden to a lot of different people, and now we can pretty much say that those troubles are over. So,
That really is a remarkable accomplishment.
Thank you.
Because it didn't look like that was going to happen a few years ago. I mean,
I didn't either,
congratulations.
but I'm just either too foolish or too stubborn to quit, so whatever you want to call it, so. But thank you, I'd really like to have that
Yeah,
opportunity.
I'd love to have you come back.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
But, come back with a discount.
I got you.
Okay. Okay, any comments from the city council?
We're good. We still got to go back and do that
I
housing.
know, we're going to
Okay.
get there.
All right.
We're
All right.
going to get there.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's exciting, but you just got to wait for it. Tonight, we're adjourning the meeting in honor of Raj Mali's father, Surjit Singh Mali. Surjit was a pillar in this community, especially in the Sikh community, where he was, I would say, the leader. Everything he touched, he brought, it improved. He was one of those people that always wanted to help whoever needed the help. He was incredibly supportive of this council and of the mayor. I spoke at his funeral. I'm going to miss him, and I think our city is going to miss him. And I know the Sikh community misses him. He was a great man, and for those of you who didn't get the opportunity to meet him, I wish you could have. So tonight, we're closing the meeting in his honor. Our next meeting is scheduled Tuesday, October 11, 2022 at 5 p.m. The meeting is adjourned.
Nope,
Oh, no, this meeting is adjourned. Absolutely.
but we need to
It
keep
is
the city council
Housing
meeting
Authority
open.
meeting that has to be open.
It,
Isn't that right?
it's a joint public hearing.
This is with the city council.
A joint public, which I'm not allowed to attend, right? So,
Why, 'cause there's a
I'm
joint
going to
one?
turn this over to
Marvin.
Marvin. So we're not adjourned.
We are not
really
adjourned,
Not yet. Not yet.
not yet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing. Can we get a staff report?
Good evening. This item before you tonight concerns a road easement that the city is requesting to be granted from the Housing Authority to the city in order to construct the improvements for future Avenue J2. Future Avenue 2 improvements will cross through a portion of a vacant lot owned by the Housing Authority. This action will advance the overall infrastructure improvements required for the health district, and our capital team is working hard to ensure these improvements start this November. Thank you.
Okay, I'll
Befo-
entertain.
Mr. Vice Mayor, before we do that, I just want to announce the reason for the mayor's departure is he has a conflict of interest due to the proximity of the project to his property. And this is regarding Medical Main Street, on which we have done the rule of necessity to allow Councilmember Molly to participate. Thank you.
Okay.
So point of clarification, do I abstain from this action then?
I believe for the city council, yes. For the
Housing Authority.
authority, you would need to, and we will no longer have a quorum for the
So-
housing authority.
So does that become a point of
It does
necessity?
not. It
No?
does not. Absence of absence of Chair Zetto and Member Harvey cannot cause a rule of necessity. So we will have to bring it, we can have it approved by the council tonight, but we cannot have it approved by the housing authority tonight. So we will have to continue. I'm sorry? Will we have three? Oh, wait, Molly.
No, I sit on the housing
No,
authority.
if Councilmember Mann leaves, we will lose quorum. So we can proceed with the public hearing with regard to the city, but with regard to, and Councilmember Mann, you do need to recuse.
Correct.
But with regard to the housing authority, we will have to come back and conduct the public hearing at that time and vote when we have a quorum without Councilmember Mann being
Right.
seated.
So I'll step out of the room then.
Wouldn't it be better if we did it all at one time?
Yes,
Okay.
but we
What
can.
is the necessity of the time limits? Do we need any time limits if we went forward with the city council portion?
Chris, are there any timing considerations for this?
No, it can wait till the next meeting.
Okay, let's
Okay.
put the whole thing
Okay.
on hold, bring it back, and we'll do
Okay.
it then.
All right, so then I recommend we continue the public hearing so that we do not have to republish.
Okay. I'll continue the public hearing till a future date.
And we do need to state a date certain in order to avoid republication, and that date certain will be October the 11th.
October the 11th, we will continue the public hearing too,
At 5 o'clock.
at 5 o'clock.
Thank
Maybe a
you.
little after. Okay. Now, I'll adjourn the meeting.